The Los Angeles Rams just made a huge move, and honestly, you have to give them credit. Big decisions like that show a team that clearly understands where it's headed. But at the same time, that move also raises a really interesting question. What exactly are the Kansas City Chiefs doing right now? Where do the Chiefs see themselves as a franchise at this moment? Because if you look at their roster closely, there aren't as many blue-chip players as there used to be. And the reality is, they just moved on from one of the young players who was in that category, a guy still in his prime. Now you start looking around the rest of the roster, and there are more questions than answers. Take the secondary, for example. Jalen Watson is heading toward free agency, and there's a real chance another team could pay him more than the Chiefs are willing to offer. If that happens, Kansas City could lose yet another key defensive piece. And when you zoom out, it's pretty wild to think about this timeline. Just 2 years removed from winning a Super Bowl, the Chiefs are suddenly in a position where it feels like they might be quietly retooling the roster. Not a full rebuild, but maybe a soft rebuild on the fly, the kind we see some teams attempt while still trying to stay competitive. So the big question becomes, what's the Chiefs' mindset right now? Because now they hold 2 first-round picks, numbers 9 and 29, which gives them options. They could draft 2 players, or they could package those picks in trades. But even with that flexibility, the reality is clear: Kansas City has a lot of needs. This isn't just a roster that needs a small tweak here or there. Some of their most important players are approaching the later stages of their careers. Chris Jones is still a dominant force, but is not exactly getting younger. Travis Kelce is another major question mark. Will he return? All signs suggest he will, but nothing is guaranteed yet, and if he does come back, there's still the matter of working out a contract. And then there's the running back situation. Both Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt are set to become free agents, which means Kansas City could potentially lose both of their top backs. The offensive line also has uncertainty. Reports indicate Jawan Taylor is expected to be released when the new league year begins. That's another major position that suddenly needs attention. And it doesn't stop there. Wide receiver Rashee Rice is reportedly facing another potential suspension. After last year's street racing incident, he's now dealing with domestic violence allegations, which could once again impact his availability. When you add all of that together, the Chiefs suddenly have a lot of moving parts and a lot of questions. Now, the one thing that helps cover up many of those issues is obvious: Patrick Mahomes. When you have a franchise quarterback like Mahomes, he can mask weaknesses across the roster. But even with a generational quarterback, every team eventually reaches a point where they need to rebuild the roster around him again. And that rebuild can either be subtle or dramatic. Right now, it feels like the Chiefs might be heading towards something closer to the dramatic side. But interestingly enough, we've actually seen something like this before. Think about Tom Brady and the New England Patriots dynasty. Early in Brady's career, the Patriots won 3 Super Bowls quickly. But after that, there was a long stretch where they stayed competitive but didn't win another championship for nearly a decade. During that time, New England was constantly retooling their roster, replacing players, reshaping the team, and staying competitive at the same time. They'd be in what looked like a rebuild year, and still somehow end up in the AFC Championship game. Eventually, they rebuilt things enough to go on another run and win multiple Super Bowls again. And that's where the comparison with the Chiefs becomes interesting. Kansas City already has 3 Super Bowl titles in the Mahomes era. There's no reason they can't go on another championship run at some point. But it might take time to rebuild the supporting cast around Mahomes. Of course, there's also another possibility. Maybe the Chiefs figure it out immediately. Because when you look at the rest of the AFC right now, the conference is far from settled. The Buffalo Bills have questions. The Baltimore Ravens still haven't gotten over the playoff hump. The Pittsburgh Steelers are